Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we're back with the Bretonnia vs. Ogre Kingdom showdown. It's going to be REPANSE facing off against the Slaughtermaster. REPANSE, of course, has her campaign partner, Henri Le Massif. Going to be getting some anti-large armor piercing here against the Ogre Kingdoms. Now, one of the big things that you do have to worry about with the Ogres, and the very, very meta way to play Ogres, is typically using these Stonehorn Hunters. They're very good. Big, heavy anti-infantry and anti-large monsters. So Stonehorns themselves do have anti-infantry. That's the big Stonehorn. And then the Hunter riding on top, which is the hero version of this unit, does have anti-large javelins, which makes them pretty good, right? It can get in there, it can throw javelins at your characters. It's very tough to drag down. So I don't know if REPANSE is like the absolute best pick in the world here, but she is a pretty good armor-piercing character in general. Yes, she does have a bonus for infantry, which, you know, would make you think, oh, she's going to be more for killing infantry, but against big armor targets, her stats are good enough. You can also use the Fleur-de-Lis banner, which is going to be giving a huge AoE radius of melee defense and melee attack, including herself. Also, she does have the Halo of Maidenly Wrath, which applies the blind debuff, so that lowers the stats really heavily. Negative 24, negative 24, and this really cool sword, the Sword of Lioness. This one gives her plus 40 melee attack. So if REPANSE pops all her buffs and is teamed up with Henri Le Massif, she could get in there, she could drag down one of the big Stonehorns and, you know, potentially do some work. So we got her, and it's going to be an unholy, unwashed mass of peasants. So front line's going to be men-at-arms, second line's going to be polearms, third line is going to be archers, life caster in the back as well to heal REPANSE, and that's basically it. So we're starting with all our infantry on the battlefield, and the rest of our reinforcements is basically all Knights of the Realm, one questing knight, which is the ROR, the companions, and then we have Knights Errant for like clearing out Noblars and just getting up to the front lines quickly. And the dreaded peasant flank. So it's going to be peasant mobs all into the sunset, running over on the side here, looking to grab that side objective. Now for the Ogre Kingdoms and the Dreadlord Professor Pone, he does have a Stonehorn Hunter. Really tough unit. They have missile resist, and he does also have the Noblar's Thief Stone, which gives him ward save. So that in tandem with the 20% missile resist and 110 armor, pretty much makes them take like minimal damage against peasant archers. To really effectively kill a Stonehorn, you either need hard armor-piercing shooting or some sort of an SEM to fight it, like a REPANSE or like King Lewin would probably be the ideal choice, and Alberic as well. They would really get in there and give the Hunter the business, but you know, a little foot goon squad here, Henri Le Massif, a little bit cheaper, and of course that can get the job done as well. For his main line, Ogre Bulls, Noblar Trappers, Slaughtermaster in the back, very standard, and it looks like there's going to be some Lead Belchers as well. So Lead Belchers are pretty darn good here. They can shoot the Bretonnian heavy cavalry, but the one thing I have going for me is the fact that most of my army is just kind of chaff, and Lead Belchers aren't going to be really good against any of these things. And also on this map, the Lost Temple of Sotek, it's not going to be great for shooting. Shooting is heavily inhibited here. My archers will also suffer that same penalty in that they're going to have to shoot through trees and things like that. But at the end of the day, I would say that's going to favor me, considering Ogre shooting is a little bit harder hitting, right? You got the Lead Belchers, you have the Iron Blasters, all that sort of scary stuff that really hits incredibly hard. So little skirmish on the side. Henri Le Massif and REPANSE going to be popping out, looking to shut down these Ogre Bulls who are coming up looking to eat some peasants, but we're not going to let them have it for free, as the mighty Maiden of Bretonnia is going to be charging on her horse, which I think its name is Sulafet or something like that. Kind of a cool name. Anyways, anti-large, Henri Le Massif gets in there, shanks down one of the Ogres, going to be chasing down the other Ogre Kingdoms models. And my apologies, I do have the blood effects turned off right now because I forgot to turn them back on after the Summer Championship I was streaming. So we'll get that back on for the next replay, don't you guys worry. Now, REPANSE going to be pulling back, as well as Henri Le Massif, and we do have the Stonehorn moving in. Stonehorn, like I said, big scary monster. Look at that. It was just sitting back, throwing javelins, and it did some decent damage. Did about 5% HP to REPANSE, and it did miss with one of those shots as well. So as far as reinforcements go, we do summon in the Beast Slayers of Bastogne and the Knights of the Realm. So Knights of the Realm are just one of the best units in the entire roster against the Ogre Kingdoms, and we do initially get the objective. Now, this is what you guys are all here for, watching giant shirtless dudes just kind of beat down peasants, which is always a good time. So peasant mobs here going to be getting absolutely eviscerated, but then you send in the spears, you send in the halberds, you just let the 100 gold peasants basically take the beating from the Great Maw, and life's going to be treating you pretty well. So REPANSE going to be getting in, gets a big charge on the Stonehorn, but does miss it, but they're able to loop around there. And REPANSE is going to be buffing up all the nearby units with her banner, which is active when she's in melee. So suddenly all these like cheap haggard infantry units of Bretonnia do have a good stat buff. You can see here 28, 48 for those spear units, not bad at all. And look at the DPS they're getting on that Hunter. That is really good. And Henri Le Massif is actually an anti-large character himself, so he gets the job done. Now, as we saw recently on one of our streams, the Great Flying Taco has showed us that these Sky Striders with Crushers are no joke. So he brought in the big anti-large cow cavalry. Let's say they're rhinos, I guess. But they're going to be riding the rhinos, and I immediately see that. I'm like, nope, I don't want any of that. REPANSE and RE going to be pulling back, and these poor peasants, oh my god, half health instantly. As the Crushers get in there with their giant lightsabers here, and they are able to chop through these men-at-arms. Like, screw this shit, we're going home. There's literally nothing we can do here. So we fall back to our secondary line. We do have the halberds in the back, the beast slayers, who should be relatively stalwart here. I mean, their base leadership's pretty good. They're not immune to psychology or anything. And I get Repanse around the front, and her and Henri Le Massif are going to be working on the hunter. Now, as far as the fighting goes on the other side, a little bit of a skirmish, and it's going pretty well. We do basically just have our halberds in the tree line, which is helping to mitigate some of the fire coming in from those little Noblar trappers back there. And with their halberds, they should be able to hold back the basic ogre units, especially considering we do have a Grail Relic nearby, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think I actually ended up moving it this direction to come help out in this fight, but I did have one in the front line for a moment. And big flank coming in. So Knights of the Realm going to be going around the back. The Ogres do take the objective from me, so they're able to kind of brute force this one down. Ogres have great capture weight, and most of my Bretonnians have been completely routed off here. Now, I am up in value, but Ogres have a ton of healing, so you really have to kind of take that into account here, as the Knights of the Realm do get the rear charge into the back of the Ogre Bulls, and the big scary Companions are going to be on their way in as well. So Companions are pretty good against Ogres. They're anti-large, they're armor-piercing, really, really good in sustained combat, and they are going to be getting a frontal charge for the lady, and today there's actually a lady for them to, truly venerate here in battle. Knights of the Realm able to get a good surround, but those crushers there, they're causing problems, and it looks like opponent's going to be using Butcher as well on the Hunter, and you can see all that damage I did to the Hunter is basically gone. It's full health because of the Butcher, because of the healing, but we get a big surround now as the Beast Slayers backed up by the anti-large units. The anti-large cab get in there, Knights of the Realm on the backside as well, clearing through the big ogres, and that means we're going to be surrounding all these expensive units, and this is going to be an absolute disaster for the Ogre Kingdoms here in this fight. Overall going quite well as Repanse buffing all these units. I mean, her AoE buff is solid. Look at the Beast Slayers. 60 melee defense, 37 melee attack. Knights of the Realm, huge charge bonus with the Lance Formation. Overall, I think her AoE buffs are really underrated, and I do think she might actually be a pretty good character in some matchups, which is really cool to see. Now, Ogre's making a big offensive here. They're going to be sending in Saber Tusks and Noblars and all sorts of stuff like that, so the brave Halberds of Bretonnia are going to be holding them at bay as the Cav lances out for the lady. They do get in there, and they are able to break the Saber Tusks. More Ogres on their way in, but overall, we are pulling a little bit of a value lead as our archers, not doing a ton of damage, but are putting some decent saturated fire into these Ogres, and the Halberds are being held in place by the Grail Relic, which did recently get a cost reduction. It only costs 300 gold now, so it certainly is a little bit of a better unit here as the Grail Relic battles these mighty Saber Tusks. We'll see if it can hold. Now on the other side, looking pretty good for us. We are able to break the Stonehorn. Stonehorn is on the run, and the Ogre Lord is fully surrounded by anti-large halberds, anti-large cab units. Lead Belchers, though, getting some decent firepower, so opponent does have the Lead Belchers right down the pipe, and they're ripping some pretty good shots in my formation here. You can see their Lord's broken, yes, at 14 leadership. And the Slaughtermaster, not the Slaughtermaster, but the Hunter is able to get away. And I didn't want to chase, because if I chase back there, I get surrounded by like some Iron Guts here, and then suddenly my two, low mass heroes are surrounded. That could be a way for the Ogres to get back in the game, but we have pulled a pretty substantial value lead. The Haggard Peasant Tide still doing a good job holding back the Ogres here as Knights of the Realm come in as reinforcements, and I do sacrifice some cavalry pushing into the Lead Belchers, because Lead Belchers are probably one of the only things here that is really going to be allowing him to potentially drag back in terms of value. You really, really got to shut down that shooting. Men-at-Arms coming over from the side fight, Halberds moving up, and more Cav will be coming non-stop. And if you guys are aspiring Bretonnian players, I really do think that's the way that you want to be playing Bretonnia. You start with mass infantry just to get good, battlefield control, and then you mix in your Cav after that, because the cavalry can reinforce quicker than infantry can, so I think that really is just better overall. Your opponent's going to be looking at your army. They're going to be playing versus infantry, not overwhelming, focus on your Cav, and then your Cav come out. They're quick. They can get to the front lines faster. I do think that really is the way to play. So the Bretonnian Knights should be able to drag these guys down. Henri Le Massif, the kill steal on Repanse, taking down the big Stonehorn right there. Now back on the main fight, you can see we're still having a little bit of a brawl in the tree line. Really, this trade is going pretty evenly here. Lead Belchers are putting some pretty serious damage into my Cav. You can see these Knights of the Realm are kind of getting blasted to pieces. He's using the Noblar Trappers and the Saber Tusks to pretty adequately defend these bad boys. But this fight on the side was very decisive. We were able to get the Companions to really crush through a lot of the units. Iron Guts do move in to try and push me off the objective, but Iron Guts are going to have a really, really bad fight versus the Companions, who again are anti-large and also armor piercing. So what little armor, or a fair amount of armor that you do see on the Iron Guts, is going to be heavily mitigated by both the Beast Slayers of Bastogne and the Companions. So you typically don't want to be fighting those type of units unless you have Noblars underneath you, which can absorb a large portion of the damage. So Knights of the Realm cutting off reinforcements. This objective is back for the lady. We currently are up a fair amount in terms of points, and now the Men-at-Arms and company going to be pushing for the Ogre's back objective, and we do have a pretty sizable lead. It's 9.5 to 6.4. Obviously, healing for the Ogres would probably bring that, up about 1,000 in terms of the value, or subtract 1,000 from mine, but I've also gotten big healing as well. Repanse got quite beat up during the battle, so did Henri Le Massif. I do have a Damsel of Life with the Power Stone going down here. I was able to get some really, really big heals, right? So Knights of the Realm routing off these units, and Repanse trying to get through, but the little Noblar is causing a problem. They have their cool little, pots and pans that they use as hats. Always a good time. Look at the value of REPANSE so far. She's currently sitting at 1,400, which is about as much as she costs. I mean, it's not much more than that. And Henri Lamassif at 1,300 as well. And they still have a lot more to give. So those characters going to be moving across. This is obviously one of the matchups in which I don't think the Fey Enchantress is the best choice in this matchup. Granted, I don't think she's bad. Most Ogre players, at least higher level Ogre players, will bring a lot of Noblars. Like the main army is going to be Noblar Trappers and Noblars with a couple utility Ogre units, whether it be like some Cav, some Leadbelchers, depending on the situation. And then their reinforcements are all the Bulls. That's usually how you have it. So, there is kind of a theory that having Fey Enchantress can help you clear out the Ogre chaff, letting your anti-large get to the Ogres a little bit better. And look at this Dismember going down. So REPANSE is going to be actually slowed quite a bit, as is Henri Lamassif, and she gets shot in the face pretty hard, 3,200 HP, but they are able to kind of close the distance. But it looks like Pone is going to be microing back the Leadbelchers, but it's only a matter of time before the filthy, unwashed masses of Bretonnia get in. We've got Spearmen at Arms, Men at Arms, and we are going to be collapsing on the Ogre Kingdom's position, as the Saber Tusk's going to get broken down pretty quickly. Fighting two pretty powerful characters. Here you can see Cav just running rampant everywhere. The last of the Ogre Kingdoms are going to be getting pushed off the side objective. And that is more or less going to be it. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding. And while we kind of watch the conclusion of this battle, basically just going to be whack-a-mole as the Bretonian characters hunt down these Leadbelchers, and you can see these Leadbelchers going to be breaking off. Just huge momentum from Bretonnia. Cavalry going to be surging into the backfield. REPANSE actually gets a little bit beat up, and this kind of brings me to something I wanted to discuss. How good the Man-Eater pistols are in this matchup. I think that they're something that could see a lot of play as well, but overall, REPANSE, I wasn't unhappy with it. I think her AoE aura for fighting on objectives is really good. She can fight Stonehorns, she can fight, Iron Guts, she can go fisticuffs with any of the Ogre characters. Reasonably durable with 110 armor and a little bit of physical resist as well, so I don't think it's bad. Lewin is good. Lewin, of course, is more expensive. So, REPANSE can be one place, Henri can be the other, Lewin can only be in one spot. He does bring terror routes to the table, but overall, it's hard to say. I think I would probably still want to go with Lewin. I think his AoE debuffs with the Sword of Couronne, but I do think that there is a place for REPANSE in this matchup, and in other matchups as well. I think if you're dealing with any sort of a Chaos faction, she can be okay against Chaos Warrior spam because she is a great weapon unit and can do some serious work. So let me know your thoughts. I'd be curious if you guys have had success with her. And I do think Bretonnia is a very underrated faction. I wouldn't say top tier, but I would say they're like a solid mid-tier faction. Very predictable though is the problem. Like almost every Bretonian player is going to be opening with Battle Pilgrims, Foot Squires, and or this type of a build against large faction. And then we'll be coming in with Cav. That's the only downside is like you can go into a game against Bretonnia and know what they're going to do almost every time. So that's the problem. I guess the Lord is kind of the variance that you see. But good value on these characters. Halberds did great. Not a ton of value, but typically the troopers here aren't going to be doing most of the lifting. Knights of the Realm are amazing. 1,600, 1,000, 1,400. I mean, just absolute linebackers. 4,000 value on the companions. Crazy, crazy stuff. And for the Ogres, Leadbelchers are really good. Overall, I think the battle was just simply lost on the side point. His formation buckled. I got the full surround. I killed his big expensive centerpiece and his lord, and that was really it. I think if the Ogres had played a little bit more conservatively, brought more Leadbelchers and shot, they totally could have won that game. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one, and we'll see you on the other side.